Great. So good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. I really want to thank you for taking the opportunity to join us today for the first peer learning session we're hosting. It's going to be quite informal. This is our first cross-regional peer learning session we've organized, and we will be having presentations from our civil society alliances in Uganda and Pakistan. From the Civil Society Alliance for Nutrition Uganda, CISANU, we'll hear about their media engagement efforts and strengthening partnerships within the nutrition sector. From the SUN Civil Society Alliance Pakistan, we will hear about their impactful work with parliamentarians and their efforts to enhance accountability in nutrition initiatives. Each of the alliances will have 30 minutes to present, and after each presentation, we'll have an informal Q&A session where you can ask your questions or share from your own experiences on the topic. And we'll keep it informal, open for conversation. I'm happy for people to raise their hands if they have a question or jump in or put things into the chat box as we progress through. So with that said, I'll be now handing over to the project manager from CISANU, Georgina Obwana, to take the floor and to share their presentation on engaging journalists. And
thank you so much, Nazgo. I hope everybody can hear me. Gladly, it's a pleasure meeting you all in this space. It's really amazing. My name is Georgina Obwana. I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Just as Ernest has said, I'll be sharing with you a good practice from Uganda. That's from the Civil Society Alliance for Nutrition Uganda. And then we'll be able to, just share more information and, back and forth questions and get to learn from each other. So if you just allow me, let me try and see if I can share my presentation, my screen with you, so then we can talk over it. Minute. Okay, I hope it can be seen.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Welcome. I'm just trying to get it into the presentation mode. Hey, thank you. Hello once again. So I'll be sharing on leveraging media that is working to strengthen awareness and visibility of nutrition advocacy. And this is a practice that we have been doing for quite some time now. And it's really amazing that we can be able to share this kind of good practice with a lot of CSAs across the globe and see how we can pick good practices and also maybe try and implement in our special CSAs in a special geographical areas. So just to begin with, hope my slides can move. So a little bit of an overview of this engagement. Basically, our focus in the media engagement is on communication and advocacy. And I would say communication and advocacy, we look at mobilizing this particular group of media to come together and be able to communicate and clearly advocate for nutrition in a country in Uganda. And we see that engaging media basically in Uganda is our focus is to influence decision makers, those that are above, or come up with space for accountability, hold the leaders, duty bearers accountable, and as well as create awareness. And this is in the nutrition space, so people can get to know and learn of the nutrition advocacy in a country. So basically, why this kind of practice in Uganda? Also, we've seen that when we talk of media, we're looking at specifically that's the mainstream media, but as well as the digital space. And we've seen it's one of the spaces that has been widely adopted in Uganda, and I believe across the globe. And this has been embraced by young people, the youth majorly. You see a lot of people right now on social media and any other thing trying to communicate and exchange information. And we thought this is a very key space that can be used to propagate information related to nutrition advocacy. And the media itself is very critical when it comes to nutrition advocacy, because we think, we know and we appreciate the fact that it reaches a wide group of people, and that is both in the formal and the informal sector, depending on what medium we're using, what channels we're using. And these people in their particular spaces have been influenced by media, and this has also informed their thought towards nutrition and how to behave. So issues of behavior change come in, but also the aspect of believability. A lot when the media says something, I want you guys to bear me witness, is that it shall be believed. Whether it's on the radio, whether it's on the TV, or anywhere on social media platforms. So looking at this, we realize that this is a very critical constituency that can be really exploited when it comes to nutrition advocacy. And now, for CISANU, we thought this could be one of the places that we could explore, and it was very intentional. So we thought building capacity of media in Uganda would be great, because we thought for them to be able to report, communicate, and disseminate information, they first of all have to be highly informed and knowledgeable. So we're able to create this aspect of capacity building. So then they're able to report and disseminate from a knowledgeable perspective, but also increase the coverage of nutrition stories, because then we're initially this wasn't being done in Uganda, given that nutrition is not really something that was initially having a lot of traction when it came to media issues. So first of all, building their capacity of the media practitioners, and then that's for knowledge purposes, but also for the increment of coverage of nutrition stories. So this is the anchorage of why we had to be able to include media. So now we looked at it and thought this constituency also is very key when it comes to promotion. Why? Because media is one of the spaces that is used to promote, let's say, development in Uganda. And because of their reach, the engagement, and so forth, we thought leveraging this would be great to promote health and nutrition advocacy. And this we've done through campaigns, and that's both digital campaigns. We've conducted a number of them since when we commenced this practice, but also we've tried to reach out directly to the mainstream media, that's the TV and the radios around, and also include the print media to be able to use them to promote nutrition in the country, but also other health aspects in it. So we've witnessed that involving them has been able to improve coverage in terms of stories being shared. That's stories shared on all the mainstream media, but also the digital space that is being used effectively, apparently. And another is the increment, the visibility of the alliance. The alliance has been able to, take advantage of this media engagements in the country since its commencement. And there's been quite an amount of visibility out there, both nationally, regionally, but also, I believe, globally. And with this, there's been the aspect of collaboration and partnership in the nutrition space. A lot of partners have come in because they've been able to see and appreciate the works that we're doing down in Uganda, but also across the region. And they've wished to collaborate in several aspects in programs and initiatives that we've done, but as well as partnerships. For instance, in Kenya, we've heard a lot of collaborations, say, with the Action Against Hunger across the region, and held several trainings and also programs related to media. And one of the interesting things is that we noticed that we had to tag with the Sustainable Development Goals, because clearly that's the agenda of the globe currently, and the engagement is clearly associated with the 3, and that's 1, 2, and 3 on the Sustainable Development Goals. And how did we start this engagement? Back to where we started. we noticed that media was not fully involved in nutrition advocacy initiatives by the time we were starting this way back in 2017. But then when you realize nutrition, we all understand and appreciate that nutrition is clearly a multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral space in nature that requires almost everybody, because clearly it does affect everyone in the globe and everyone should participate in improving it. So when we look at media, we thought this is a very ripe and very critical space that can be involved because of one of their positive influences, but also the believability and the reach to the communities down there. So we were able to use them to be able to champion our agenda. So before then, we had to first conduct a media survey to establish, because then we need to understand this space first of all before we could be able to take advantage of it. So then when we conducted a survey, it was on journalists' nutrition reporting skills, and this was across the country to be able to understand if journalists have really undergone a proper reporting training skills, especially on nutrition. And it was really amazing to realize that over 90% of journalists, that's across Uganda by then 2019, had never ever undergone any kind of form of nutrition reporting training. And that was very saddening, because then how will you expect such a critical constituency to be able to communicate, disseminate information, and then be the bridging gap? Remember, they're very clearly involved in development programs, but then if they do not know what's happening, then how will they be able to communicate to the last one down there who we're targeting? So then we noticed this gap and then thought to fill it then, we had to ensure that we should be able to say, conduct trainings and capacity building into that, and be able to give them the knowledge and so forth. So that gap is what really got us to understand that to be successful in this space, in the nutrition agenda and address malnutrition in Uganda, we should be able to involve the media, but then how we just can't have them half baked into the space, because then how will we be able to achieve our agenda at the end of the day? It will be very difficult. So then that's when we came up with the aspect of media trainings, the sensitizations program, and we were able to carry on from then across the country, and we're doing it regionally across each region in Uganda. So with these programs, we devised a mechanism on how to engage. First of all, like I said, it was regional trainings that we thought through in our process of realizing that majority of the journalists who we want to work with really clearly have no background or anything in communicating or advocating for nutrition in the country, for improved nutrition rather. So having these regional trainings segmented, carried on annually since then, that's 2019, carried on annually, but segmented in quarterly basis, like three months, we in per region carrying out and sensitizing them. Well, that was one of the ways we started engaging and having them involved. And for participation, for the participants, we looked at having anybody in the media space, as long as you're in the media space, that's the reporters, presenters, news anchors, even the DJs, as long as you are in the media space, because in one way or another, you influence somebody through your music, through your news, through whatever you say on air, whatever you're going to do. So we thought it should be not necessarily reporters or presenters, those that are practically in the let's say editorial space, no, just whoever is in the media space. So media practitioners, plus also media owners themselves, to be able to understand, because then they're the owners of these media houses and they run the show at the end of the day. So having them understand anything related to nutrition advocacy in the country, would appreciate also for their work to be done. But we didn't have only the reporters and so forth participate. We also involved the Office of the Prime Minister in Uganda. They brings together, coordinates nutrition initiatives and programs in the country. So having them in this space right from the start was also very critical, because then they would appreciate the work of the CSA on the ground and having to have the media, because at the end of the day, they would also use the same media platform to disseminate, communicate information. Then we also involved other CSOs to appreciate also this kind of initiative. and the CSA Alliance members also to take part in it. So it was a multi-sector kind of participation. It wasn't only as media strictly. Yes, we would involve other people that we thought were directly involved in this initiative. So the trainings are a combination of being on site, that is, we go to where the journalists are or where the media practitioners are and train them and sensitize them from that space. And also hybrid for those that we were not able to reach, but were able to come online, physical, if they're close by, we go to their places. And it's basically composed of a group of discussions. So we sit and discuss on these issues, get to understand their perspective. We talk around that and then come up with solutions on how we can be able to advocate for nutrition in Uganda and improve this. Then also have plenary sessions at the end of the day. And we had participants take part on voluntary basis. So the process was you just request, but then it was voluntary basis for voluntary basis rather for journalists to take part in it, for media practitioners to take part in it. It's not forceful, because at the end of the day, this is what we would wish for them to do. And the topics majorly centered on nutrition advocacy and communication, because with media, it's communication and you're communicating to a multifaceted demographic. So you need to first understand and be able to also understand the information that you're disseminating to them. In the process, someone would say, how would you be doing this? Well, support. We've gotten support from Alliance members, because this is an annual thing. So we're able to come together in form of synergies and then be able to, acquire support from financial support from members of the Uganda Health Communication Alliance, as well as the United Nations Association of Uganda. These two members have really played a critical role when it comes to supporting this initiative. Now, when we talk of the impact and the influence that these good practices brought forth in the country, we've been able to witness 1,000 journalists countrywide going through this process since its commencement. And this is a great achievement, because then we're getting high interest. They're really getting interested in nutrition advocacy currently, understanding the dynamics and being able to appreciate that it does affect everyone, and their space is really critical in disseminating information and being able to address malnutrition in the country. And so far, we have quite a number of nutrition journalists who are advocates in the media space, and there are over 100. And we work with them in these initiatives that we have. We invite them in their spaces to discuss and also understand, and they are now part of us in their alliance. Actually, they contribute so much in the alliance progress and daily work in championing nutrition. Also, we've heard increased knowledge from these journalists. Yes, they've appreciated getting to understand that nutrition is key, and they are part of it, and they can be able to get involved as well and be able to contribute to reduction of malnutrition in Uganda. And then coverage of stories. So far, a number of stories have been covered and are still being covered, because now journalists have interest and they're getting to understand that this is a developmental issue in our country, and if we don't talk about it, then it's going to hinder the progress of in the country, and there'll be a lot of people dying. So we need to speak up and be able to find solutions to fighting malnutrition. So generally, media has presented high interest in nutrition advocacy, which is a plus, and having this number of media nutrition advocates is a great thing to know. So what have we learned so far since the commencement of this good practice? One thing we've learned as a CSA is that there is need to continually provide support. That's in form of regular trainings to the media practitioners. Why? Because these media people don't stay there for good. So if we trained, say, in 2019, I bet you not that by 2022, there will be another group of journalists that have come. There will be a number of them that have gone. So regular, continuous training. That's why we chose to have it in an annual basis, like every year on a quarterly system. So then those that keep coming in also go through the same kind of training. So then they continue to be knowledgeable and then continue to have interest in that. So that is one of the reasons. Field visits as well. So if there is any program that we have and we have to go to the communities, we carry along media practitioners. So then they're able to see firsthand what's happening down in the community. They're able to appreciate and then speak about these things so that the policymakers and decision makers can get to understand. But also offering grants to them to enable them to do more in-depth coverage, because I believe it's just not about reporting and just communicating. There is a lot that is going on, so they need to do in-depth investigation and get to understand the critical issues and be able to speak up and talk about them, so then they are addressed. Secondly, leveraging resources from partners. Like I said earlier on, we've been able to be supported by one of our partners, that is Uganda Health Communication Alliance, and then the United Nations Association of Uganda. And this has really made work fairly easy, not that so much easy, but fairly easy to be able to bring together this team of journalists to go through the training, sensitization, and be able to communicate and disseminate any information related to nutrition advocacy. And media is being critical, so there's increasing awareness and there is quite an amount of visibility now that the interest is high. So a number of stories are getting out there, and the trainings also are going on. So we get to see that communication does move on and information is spread regarding health and nutrition advocacy. So a number of challenges also we've encountered, because it has been a smooth ride since when it was commenced. And the first issue, as usual, this cuts the adequate resources to smoothly conduct this kind of initiative. But how have we worked around that? We've been able to leverage on resources, let's say, from the alliance partners. That's how CISANU has been able to go around this. But also competing priorities of journalists. We can appreciate the fact that journalists are very busy people, newsrooms and so forth, presentation. It's not really, it's a busy space. So being able to have them rather put out stories on nutrition is really tricky. So how have we gone about this, or how are we going about this? Able to engage journalists who are specializing, let's say, like those on health desk. So when you approach them and try and give them this information and interest them on nutrition advocacy, they tend to see it from a whole different perspective and appreciate the fact that this is something that we can interest ourselves and be able to create time and also give space, let's say, for print, where they'll give space, say, on the page and then write something about it, and then it's published at the end of the day, because it's also critical besides the usual daily politics, because politics does take a lot of space and a lot of time and airtime when it comes to publication and broadcast. Also busy schedule, yeah, I said about that. So one way we've been able to work around these busy schedules is being quite strategic. And this is through conducting on-site trainings. On-site trainings, I mean, we go to media houses and find journalists at their spaces. So we wouldn't inconvenience them to leave their spaces and come to where we are. No, we go to where they are and be able to speak to them or sensitize them, train them in their spaces. So in on-site trainings has really helped to get them with their busy schedules and be able to conduct these trainings. So clearly, what would we say about this initiative to other CSAs? Simple advice. First and foremost, you should be very, very prepared for unseen setbacks and situations that may arise during the trainings, because these are people that are in and out and very busy in the field and everywhere. So sometimes you may book a date, be able to want to go and train or sensitize them, in the next minute they're not available. So these are some of the things that need to be planned into. So issues of time, resources must be looked into. So plan well, allocate enough time for the sessions, but also be very, very flexible because you will not catch them at one go. So being flexible and being able to understand when to cut them and when to be able to bring them together in one space is key. Also, media should be involved right from the beginning stages, planning stages. This is one of the things that we really come to appreciate, because if we have an initiative, we have a program, or we have an engagement, we have to involve media right from the planning stages, brainstorming stages. Why? Because we want them to appreciate this initiative so then they don't feel left out. At the end of the day, they'll also be able to report, communicate, or disseminate any kind of information from a knowledgeable perspective, and they'll be able to appreciate that they are part of this whole initiative. They've just not been brought in to speak about it on short notice or from an informed space. Because also we appreciate the fact that with journalists, me being one of them from the initial stages, is that it's just not about writing about an event and putting information out there. You have to, first of all, understand it from the beginning, where it's coming from, its significance to the people, and being able to communicate clearly and precisely and the right factual information to the public, so then they can appreciate. And this being a nutrition advocacy initiative, we also want to have them be part of it and own it at the end of the day. That's why we're able to bring them from the planning stages. Then implementing a media feedback strategy, that has been also very key, because then we're able to understand where we are doing right, where we are not doing right, where we need to adjust, and be able to have them fully on board and fully appreciate the nutritional advocacy in the country. So what's our next steps, given that this is one of our good practices in Uganda CSA? We've seen that one of the best ways to go about this is to have or produce like a toolkit. And this is a nutrition media guide. Currently, it's in the draft process in the beginning stages. And we know that hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have fast draft out, because it's a whole process involving so many stakeholders to be able to approve of it, since it's going to be a guide. And this guide will help in the training, the continuous training of journalists in this in the nutrition space, and guide them, and also help us understand where we need to adjust and do better or improve into this. But now the interesting part is that, as usual, the big elephant in the room, the funds needed to be able to undertake this and continue with the process, because it has kind of stalled a bit because of funds. But we're hopeful that now that we're talking about it, and we will talk more about it, we'll be able to see on how to move forward from this. And that's it from Uganda. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nazgul. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Georgine and colleagues from CISANU. That was an incredible presentation, and it's impressive to see the impact you've had with training over 1,000 journalists and sensitizing them on nutrition issues, as well as creating that network of media nutrition advocates. I think, again, to emphasize the importance of the role of the media and journalists in public health education, influence on public policy to combat any misinformation areas about diet and health, which we're seeing a lot of on social media, on behavior change, and on accountability. So it's really an amazing area to work on. So I'll be opening the floor now for Q&As and any general sharings, if anyone has an experience that they would like to share more about. I think we have Danish's hand raised, so over to you, Danish.
Thank you very much, Georgine, for excellent presentation. It's really inspiring. So I was a bit curious about the engagement of, this traditional media is actually getting a bit, fed, and modern media, especially social media, is gradually taking space. So I just wanted to know, have you ever collaborated with social media influencers? And if yes, what was your experience like? And typically working with, with influencer carries some reputational risk, and that could impact our advocacy efforts. So what is your experience in this regard? And frankly, we are planning to engage with social media influencers, so we wanted to hear from you. Over.
Thank you, Dinesh. Sorry, but my network I think has been a bit. Could you just repeat your question kindly?
Yeah, I wanted to actually have your views about the engagement of social media influencers, because social media is actually taking more place, and right now everyone actually use social media. So I wanted to have your views about engagement of social media influencers. So have you ever collaborated with social media influencers? And if so, what was your experience like? And typically, this is our experience. So typically working with influencers, that carries some reputational risk that can impact our advocacy efforts. So what are your views? And if you already engage with social media influencers, what was your experience like?
Yes, thank you, Dinesh, for that question. That's a very interesting one, because when you talk of media, it's broad lately, and digital is picking up. For social media, yes, we have. I didn't mention about it, but we have hired trainings of social media. Can I say like social media influencers? But I know what we've done is we've trained from the youth part of it. We've been able to conduct this, and this was in partnership with we did this in partnership in collaboration with Action Against Hunger in Kenya, and it was a great time. We've done it on two bases. So we also have a team of young people, youth, who are involved in this social media nutrition advocacy. And so I did mention about that. And we've taken them through a training, and the experience has really been great, because then the appreciation of young people and getting on board to advocate, to communicate, to speak, to preach the gospel of nutrition, good nutrition, improving nutrition is great. And now that we've also, I'll mention this briefly, we've incorporated it into one of the major, can I say, flagship program of one of our partners, that's the United Nations Association of Uganda, and under call it the UMUN, the Model United Nations. So we heard them there, and they were able to speak about nutritional issues and discuss them and come up with concrete solutions. But then they also go forth and speak about all this on their platforms, their social media platforms. Why? Because they have an influence out there, because they're most of them are leaders in their spaces, wherever they are, in schools, institutions of learning, in their communities. So we encourage them to also use these digital spaces. And what we've seen is that the influence is great, and the knowledge, the kind of knowledge and appreciation also they get out there is great, and the interest has also grown. So using digital spaces has also given us a niche to be able to involve other constituencies into this. And we think this is also one of the areas that we are strongly advocating for, and it's one of the species as the CSA in Uganda we are also taking advantage of, Danish, to be able to disseminate, communicate, advocate for nutrition in the country. So yes, the digital space, we've really been able to exploit it as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Tawfiq's hand is up. If you have a question you'd like to ask.
No, thank you. This is not my question, but reflection is as well. As we in the Bangladesh have experience to do the nutrition advocacy to journalists and social media as well. Just last year we did in this way that first of all we picked some key journalists like 5 or 10, and we sit togetherly how they can train the another journalist in the subnational and district level as well. So after the sensitization, the key journalists, they they train the journalists who are working in the subnational level or district and upazila level as well. And at the same time, they also visited the different part of the country in Bangladesh, and for this purpose, like train up the journalists at their point of view. So we get the good result after the training, and it was more coverage about the nutrition related things in electronics and print media as well. And secondly, the second point, social media, it was also another advocacy process in Bangladesh as well. So we developed different type of content on nutrition.
Sorry, Tawfiq, we can't hear you properly.
I'm afraid I can't hear properly.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
no. Apologies, Tawfiq. We cannot hear you properly.
Facebook, LinkedIn, so that the
Okay, I think we have unfortunately lost Tawfiq, but when he joins again, we can hand the floor over to him. I see Bilkis, your hand is up.
Yeah, I hope my voice is audible. Yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. And thanks, Nazgul, for organizing this session, because we really wanted to learn from other CSA regarding engaging media. So my question is about the group of journalists Georgia just shared. Like in Pakistan, we also train journalists of print and electronic media, also made a media group so we can keep them engaged and active. But unfortunately, that we could not keep them motivated or engaged or keep them focused. So is there any strategy you are using, or is that group you have developed of journalists, is that active and engaged still? Like, I want to know about that group, media group you just mentioned in your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Bilkis. Yes, the group is very active. It's active. It's been active, and I hope it will continue being active, because then we engage them all through in every initiative that we have. We have them on board. Now we've taken them on as members, very active members of CISANU. So they participate in every program, everything that we are doing, and we're involving them in all stages of every kind of work we are doing. So they're actively part of us. That's why we are able to have them all through the processes. They never die. Probably they leave the profession and maybe move elsewhere and do something else. But for as long as they're still there, we're still active, and they're still working, they're still producing stories, because the trainings are going on, being an annual thing. It's never stopping. So we just keep them busy and involved all through. Thank you.
Thank you. I can see Gisella's hand up if you'd like to take the floor.
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much for the really amazing presentation and for sharing about, I mean, that's such a successful success story, being able to engage with journalists and having such a strong team. And I guess I'm just curious, but it's probably already answered, but from my experience engaging with journalists, I'm from Indonesia, by the way. from my experience engaging with journalists in Indonesia, usually they will come to some of the events that we have, maybe like dissemination or maybe need a briefing. But in general, if we don't approach them, they don't really look for the information, or even if we give them this information, it's not always guaranteed that they will post something about that. And I guess part of the reasons from what I can see is also because maybe politically it's not there yet or something, like it's not like the momentum was not quite right. So I guess I'm just wondering, since when we are talking about nutrition is like you're using journalists as a media, obviously, because it's important to change the to influence the public opinions about the importance of nutrition. But how do you really ensure that I don't know, like what's the strategies of what the journalists are using to make sure that the news, the information about nutrition, that any updates that your team is working on can actually be published and actually aligns with any of the political situations there, if that makes sense. But yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Gisela, for that question. I know sometimes dealing with the media could be a bit interesting because, like I said, one of the challenges that is very common that you're facing is probably getting them interested in nutrition issues or nutrition stories and advocacy, because then competing priorities, of course, in the newsroom and any other thing is very normal. Politics will take lead. Anything political in the country, the global will take lead, but nutrition probably will take the back end of it. But what we've done as Uganda CSA to have them get interested and have them voluntarily accept and appreciate to be part of this is to be able to feed them with information, and this information contains facts, contains statistics. We also have to get them to appreciate personal experiences. So then they are able to have also, as much as it's this perspective of putting out a story just for purposes of putting out a story, but they can be able to relate with the issue, with say the nutrition issue, to them. So for instance, we one of the programs we heard, we were able to come do a small like an aid memoir, and then shared it with them prior to having them come in, and that was able to have to speak out, like be able to pick out serious issues that affect to the population in the country, and we try to encourage them to see to be able to see this from an angle of the human angle part of it, if you get it, and then appreciate it. It's difficult, it's a guarded process, but then this has been able is working out because the facts, the statistics, the personal experiences are coming up, and it's not far from their backyard. It does also affect them, so then they tend to appreciate that, and that hasn't come just in a day with something. It has been a continuous process to that. So I think with the Asian, probably with your experience, it's because then you go to them, they don't come to you. In getting to have them appreciate this is by issuing, like having an issue paper get out and then share with them prior, having press releases, involving them, having media briefs continuously. So when you are constantly getting them updated, you're constantly feeding them with information, facts about all these situations, about the nutrition status in that space, and then they can be able to appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgine. We have, I think, space for 3 more questions. So we have first Warugaba, Deepak, and then there's a question in the chat box that I will read out. So over to you, Warugaba William.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, and wherever you are. I'm happy to be part of this engagement, as one person has been part of the Civil Society Nutrition Network. I've appreciated so much what CISANU has done. Mine is not question, it's just to contribute to the fact that when now you are talking with the media personnel, and like before, you realize that now the reporting of nutrition, one, is being prioritized. When you go to a media house, and especially those which CISANU has trained, they give you more attention and they are more likely to come for your event. And to me, I find that very good, and more intervention in that line, like she was presenting, needs to be done. And I felt I should share on how best us now as other civil society organizations dealing in nutrition, how it becomes easy when a media engagement has been done, and now they are very much fast with the nutrition. A good example, I've also found that even when you're in road safety, the media lacks that. So when you go to talk to them about road safety, you find also it is something they don't listen to so much. So good intervention towards engaging media people. And that arrangement, I feel, should be pronounced so highly. And I want to thank CISANU, but also thank this engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, William, and thank you for being and supporting us also in having the media come aboard. But Nazgul, if you'd allow me, I'd also I don't want to really dominate all this because Richard, my counterpart, is also online, and he can also be able to shed in more light and have an in-depth, probably, analysis onto some of the questions that are being asked, and also add more. I don't know if subtract also would be really relevant, but he can also like have a say and put perspective into this. Thank you. Richard, over to you.
Thank you very much. I hope that you guys can hear me. Let's go.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Greetings from Nairobi. I am at the UN Civil Society Conference. We're preparing for the Summit for the Future. But of course, it's lovely to be here now. Greetings to everyone from wherever you are now. Thank you very much, Eugene, for the presentation. I think it was a very rich presentation. A couple of things from my experience, and this is what I think we never talk about. It's the politics of media advocacy and awareness. First is the media advocacy. We tend to kind of take these two things to mean the same, media advocacy and awareness. I think it's important for organizations to understand that when we do communication, for example, in CISANU for media advocacy, and we are doing a social media post, we really don't necessarily look for how many people have liked. It is who are we targeting specifically. If we want to have the speaker speed up the tabling of the nutrition bill in Parliament, then we get all our teams, everyone, to post about this and tag the speaker's handle. So the speaker cannot ignore the social media noise because it is just going everywhere. So I think it's important to be very intentional and very deliberate about the target, and in quote unquote harass that one with your information and what you want them to say. Then otherwise, the second thing is, I think, what Irish was asking about. We are extremely careful about who we work with on campaigns, because we know now from our previous experiences that not all people who have good followings are necessarily good for your cause. Sometimes what people come and ask us to do is to get the other one who has so many people, but they are going to actually negate because of what they have been putting out. I give you an example. There's one lady who has a huge following online. We are being asked to ask her to be our nutrition influencer online. But she has been consistent in her messaging with a negative message about how breastfeeding spoils the goodness of breasts. So how do we have that one as our influencer, even when she has a big following? So I think that's very important to talk about. The other thing is also the politics I was talking about. That you see, many organizations are based, many of the SUN CSAs are based in organizations. So you'll find Uganda SUN CSA is maybe hosted by this or that. Now, those organizations have their already set rules about how to engage the media. So sometimes the flexibility to engage the media for the SUN CSA is compromised because of the already existing, many times rigid rules and practices. And this oftentimes we don't talk about because sometimes it can endanger our positions. But you find you are told that for a media release to go out, the CEO must sign. And so you take a week or so waiting for the CEO and you miss the moment. Finally, I want to talk about, I think it was a question about the gatekeepers, the editors. Oftentimes, we do not engage the editors. We think that when we call the foot soldiers, the journalists, to come to our meetings, then the stories will always come out. But they are gatekeepers who are called editors. Now, what we did in the Civil Society Alliance for Nutrition in Uganda, we have had numerous one-on-one meetings with radio station managers, with newspaper editors, with TV, with the National Association of Broadcasters who are the owners. So I think this is also very important that we need to reach out to the people who have the power, but that we don't see every day. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard, and for answering the question regarding editors. Really insightful. I think we have one question from Deepak.
Namaste, I'm Deepak from Nepal. Congratulations for training 1,000 media people. That's a good achievement. But I think your objective of training 1,000 media people is not to train them. You want to go beyond them to go to the populations or vulnerable group. So on that context, I have a few questions. The thing is, have you known how many of them of 1,000 they have written some kind of text or spoken on some media and all that? How do you know that? How many percentage of the people that you have trained, they are doing their job after your training? That's one question. The other question is, changing habit is not simple. It takes a lot of time and lot of reports and all that. Just publishing or speaking to the people or writing some text on nutrition is not going to be enough one or two times. You need to go for many times so that people will take it as a serious matter and they will try to adopt the habits in terms of the good food, good nutritious food and all that. So in that context, I have these questions and all that. And the other one is, as I said, it is very difficult to change the habit of any habit and all that, or adopt new habit and all that. Do you think just the people will listen and read or read or listen to any media, that is going to enough to change the habit in terms of, because our experience, we have been working very hard to change the habit of the eating habit of the people, and it takes some time and all. Our media people are that much, what do you call it, motivated to, to for a longer period of time so that the people will change the habit? That's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deepak. I want to hand that both to Richard to share, please.
All right, thank you, Eugene. Probably I should also say that I'm a journalist myself. Maybe because you see two things, and I appreciate what Deepak has said. And Deepak, you are talking about behavior change. So, and that's the other thing. So, media advocacy for policy, programming, and budget influence. Behavior change communication. Awareness communication and public mobilization. So they are, so yeah, these things are not exactly the same. And then that's like I was saying, oftentimes when we plan and deliver, we tend to equate them. That if you do create awareness and mobilize the community, that it does not necessarily translate into behavior change. So you want behavior change communication, which is just beyond one medium, one intervention, which is media. It's a mix of interventions. So yes, we do this intervention, and the main was we're doing media advocacy, and we are doing a mobilization for the public. So ultimately, the long term is to change. And there you need another mix, approaches, a mixture of approaches, but also expertise. The training, the 1,000. I mean, the other thing is think that we did not. Let's assume that, okay, we are looking at when you train the journalists alone, it won't bring behavior change. So maybe it's not an intervention we should do. That's the other. Why do we go to people who are not necessary? Because many of our colleagues, when we discuss, they want us to go to health journalists. But why do we go to train DJs? We want them to own the message. That when they are doing their regular, for example, morning drive show, they should make a comment on nutrition. Let me tell you one of the things, the questions we get asked. We always tell them to eat good food. The question we get asked is, what is good food? And if you stop to think about it as an activist, as an advocate, what is good food? I don't know about Pakistan. I've been to Nepal. You invited us sometime, we came there. But I just asking around, I found that there were different types of food for different types of regions and different types of people. So we need to think about all these things. And finally, I can say behavior change can happen in an instant, but it can also take ages to happen. And of course, the journalists are not just talking about nutrition. So what we try to do is to have the mainstream nutrition conversations in their all other programs. That is why we go to all these many. And the second thing is, and the managers. And the second thing is to recognize that if there is a flood story, they should have a nutrition lens to it. Not necessarily to change the way they eat, but to highlight the nutrition needs of the flood victims. So it is beyond just behavior change. It is to have all these things in there. I hope that it's that helps a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. We just have a few more minutes on this segment of the peer-to-peer, but there is one question in the chat box from Javed Iqbal in Pakistan. What were the challenges during engagement process? What was the strategy to minimize or eliminate the risk to politicize the nutrition agenda and keep it public issue? I'm not sure if Georgine or Richard, which one of you would like to answer?
I think Georgine had a slide about risks and mitigation.
Okay. Have a feeling Georgine may be having connectivity issues. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
She's okay. If she's just off that, let me just share. The first, I think, and the first for me was to get the media houses to accept our changed approach to training. The method of training that they are used to is to be invited to hotels and engaged there. For us, we were asking to come to the media houses and train the people from there. And that means they were having some obligations to that because they would have to provide for us space at the media houses and probably refreshment, sometimes water or soda or tea. Now, this is not something that was in the practice. This was not the practice. So we had to go and convince them that this is valuable to them. Remember, we are talking about nutrition, not politics. So if they didn't see this as an immediate, headline grabbing issue. So we had to do a lot of negotiations with them. Now, how did we go around that? The media in Uganda, they have associations. The National Association of Broadcasters, who are usually the owners and the managers, the National Editors Guild, and the Uganda Media Women Association. So those three helped us as our allies to reach the media houses and reach and convince them that this was very useful. Related to that was also to convince the funder. The funders are also not used to this my way. Their templates are workshop, media training, bring a workshop, hotel, tea, room, hire equipment. It's a template, all of them. So to tell them that now we are going to take money for fuel, for night allowance, and that's where we are going to put the money, not to a hotel, which is easy, bring a pro forma invoice, and the accountability is very straight. That was the other thing, dealing with the straitjacket practices of the donor, the people who give us money. Now, once we had navigated these two, was now to get a media manager to mobilize and have their own journalists spend time with us. Because you see, they want their journalists to be in the field all the time or to be on air. So when you want to spend 4 or 5 hours with these journalists, and in a way you are taking them out of their work. So, some of these very practical things that we are facing, and it had a lot of negotiation and partnerships that we had to do. And the final thing, which is really very difficult, is to monitor all the outputs. We have no capacity to monitor all the outputs that have come. So we catch some and we miss some. so that's those are some of the challenges. And we haven't found a way around this really.
Thank you very much, Richard. That was a very insightful response. There are a few other really great questions in the comment box from Hugh regarding budget advocacy. I think perhaps that can be addressed in the chat box, so we can now move into the second part of the event, which will be focusing on a presentation by the SUN Civil Society Alliance in Pakistan, who will be speaking about their impactful work with parliamentarians and their efforts to enhance accountability in nutrition intervention. So first, I will hand over to Mr. Mubarak Ali Sarwar, who is a chairperson of the SUN CSA Pakistan, followed by Bilkis, who is the coordinator of the SUN CSA in Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazgul. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for providing us a wonderful opportunity. That is very learning and useful opportunity. And thank you for the Uganda team. They have shared very good presentation on media advocacy. Regarding the parliamentarian engagement, we have SUN CSA Pakistan. We have very good engagement with parliamentarians at different level, including at national level, province level. And we have been engaged during last 3 general election. And our SUN CSA members, they are closely working with different parliamentarian groups at national level, at province level, and particularly for the advocacy of nutrition agenda, to include the nutrition agenda in their manifestos. And during the last election, that was in 2018, after the elected government, the Prime Minister, Mr. Imran Khan, during his opening speech, he has shared that nutrition will be the top priority in Pakistan. And even before this election, because the election in Pakistan that was held in the month of February, and before that, our SUN CSA members, we are closely working with different mainstream political parties. The party, including the, sorry, are you facing something? Nazgul, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mubarak sir. There was little interruption, but now we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mubarak sir.
Okay.
Mubarak sir, please continue. We can hear you.
I think Mubarak Saab is traveling and there is some connectivity issue. So he informed me earlier, but I said if you could manage, so talk briefly, otherwise we can. Yes,
So,
Mubarak Saab.
Bilkis, can you hear me?
Yes, Mubarak sir, we can. Please continue. I think there is a delay yes.
I think so. I think perhaps we can maybe move into the presentation, and then after, if the connection is better, we can pass over back. Bilkis, you have the authority to share your screen and presentation
Yeah,
if you wish.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nazgul and SUN CSA Secretariat for this opportunity. I think this is a long pending topic which we wanted to share with other SUN Civil Society Alliance members. Okay, so my topic of presentation is about our nutrition advocacy journey and how we engage political leader and parliamentarian for foster and enabling policy and legislative environment in Pakistan for nutrition. So my brief introduction is my name is Bilkis Dayas and I am coordinating SUN CSA Pakistan, working with Nutrition International as advocacy and communications officer. And I have been affiliated with SUN Civil Society Alliance from past many years. So I'll share our journey because we started to work with parliamentarians for quite a long time. Like we, SUN Civil Society Alliance Pakistan established in 2014. And I think from 2016 or 2017, we started to work with parliamentarians. So before I share about SUN CSA journey and achievement and approaches we undertaken to engage parliamentarians, I wanted to briefly share about why we need to engage, why we should engage parliamentarians. Because parliamentary engagement is important because of the various reasons, but three of them can be, like, you can say it is important because parliamentarians have mandate to develop relevant policies, legislation, strategy, and they also have a crucial role to implement those policies and strategies. Then they have a role to allocate budget for nutrition program policies and for other strategies or plans. And other important role of parliamentarian is to improve nutrition governance and accountability through different parliamentary forums. Like there are various parliamentary forums in Pakistan. We have SDG Secretariat who provide oversight, who have oversight role to other committees or government authorities. Then if we talk about what are the roles of parliamentarian, like what parliamentarians can, how they can influence budget decision for good nutrition. So if you can see, their role is very, you can say, important, because they need to play their role from budget formulation to budget speech, then budget audit, and of course budget implementation. Because the decision to end malnutrition is a political one. So if political leaders or any leaders who don't act to address malnutrition situation in the country are most likely to miss chance to progress their communities and economies. And parliamentarian, as the representative of the people, a parliament is the most appropriate place to ensure that budget budget best matches the nation needs, and more specifically the needs of the most nutritionally vulnerable population with available resources. For example, like it is very important that the budget which is allocated uh, mm, mm, in the budget should matches the nation needs. For example, if a country is facing high burden of anemia in pregnant women, so it is important that the budget is allocated for to address that issue instead of other issue which is not for example, if budget is allocated for addressing micronutrient or you can say for addressing wasting. So it is important to ensure budget is allocated for the most crucial to address most crucial issue, nutrition issue in the country. Then because critical role parliamentarians play critical role in getting more money for nutrition and more nutrition for money throughout the budget cycle, because if more money is allocated for nutrition, it can promote individual well-being, nation prosperity, and economic growth as well. So at the budget formulation and consultation stages, a parliamentarian can state can talk or can highlight prioritize for budgetary allocation. They can write letters to parliamentary secretaries to ensure that nutrition is a priority of the administration. And parliamentarian can also use evidence to secure budget for proven nutrition programs and intervention. And they can also contribute. For example, if the Minister of Finance is hosting a consultation where MPs, member of parliamentarians can participate and make the case for investment in nutrition programs. Okay, so during the next process is the budget speech. So if the in the first stage during the budget formulation, if that opportunity is missed, there is still a chance that nutrition related allocation can be addressed in that as well. So it is important that parliamentarians are engaged in all process. For example, because in the when the budget at the budget speech, after the budget speech at the parliament, there is debate and discussion on that. And if a certain significant number of parliamentarians can highlight that there is no allocation, or there's need more allocation for nutrition, then there is a chance that it can be addressed in the parliament, in the parliamentary or supplementary budget, which is done after the actual budget is present. For budget adoption and implementation, member of parliamentarians can get the government to justify allocation and budgetary decision, because they also propose budget and propose changes with amendments for better reflection of national nutrition priorities. Throughout the implementation period, member of parliamentarians can send letter or question on how nutrition allocation are spent, or if they are not spent, they can ask what are the reason, or to ensure that the allocated budget are actually implemented for the program it is allocated. Budget audit is the process where parliament can also request for a budget audit. For example, in Pakistan, our federal budget and provincial budget usually present in June, July. So the time frame written here is for Pakistan. For example, depending from July to October, when there is little or no budgetary and financial activity in the country, parliamentarian can request for an analysis of budget, like if the previous year budget that much is allocated, if that is spent on the specified program or not. So what are the potential entry points for civil society alliance, where they can contribute and where they can influence? One of the forum is the parliamentary leadership. Parliamentary leadership is the one where it is the speaker house, which is generally responsible for managing day-to-day affairs of the parliament. So the leadership of the parliament, like speaker of the parliament, generally determines the agenda of the parliament and assign matter before the before parliament to the relevant committees and coordinates the proceedings. So it may be effective to establish a formal link between CSA. It may be effective to establish a formal link between the CSA and the parliamentary speaker. So our agenda, CSA agenda, can be incorporated in the agenda of the parliamentary hearing. Or then there is a parliamentary committees is another form, and most parliamentary work is done in committees. For example, the most important decisions regarding pending legislation are made at the committee stage, and the bill are then endorsed and formalized in a full or a plenary session of parliament. The role of parliamentary committee usually is to scrutinize draft legislation, propose necessary amendments, and ensure that legislation is consistent with international standard and the interest of the people. So it is important. SUN CSA, SUN Civil Society Alliance can identify the relevant parliamentary committees and leadership and establish cooperation with them. For example, relevant committees can be in Pakistan, there are several standing committees, for example, health, food security and agriculture, education, human rights, and public accounts committee. So nutrition agenda can be discussed and prioritized with the and we can advocate with these committees to support our nutrition agenda at the parliamentary forum. Then there is a individual parliamentarians with whom we can build working relationship and can advocate for not only for implementation of any legislation but for budgetary allocation, and they can influence that. So it is important that SUN CSA identify and support individual parliamentarians and also provide them relevant information. For example, in Pakistan, I will also share later that we many times, like a lot of the time, we provided because we have good relation with some parliamentarians. So we develop a nutrition related question to be asked at the floor of the parliament. And they put that question at the parliament, and it was related to nutrition budget and implementation of certain laws or policies. So it is always ideal to identify some parliamentarians who also keen interest or who has interest to support nutrition agenda. Then we can also, parliamentary staff is also important to build relation with, because because parliamentarians are very busy person. They sometimes don't have time to respond to our emails or take phone calls. So it is important to build working relation, close coordination with parliamentary staff. For example, it can be directors or deputy director, or sometime there can be research officers and administrators who also need your support to regarding some facts or figures related to any social issues, or for example nutrition issues. So we can build close collaboration or coordination with parliamentary staff to reach the parliamentarian. Then there are parliamentary caucuses as well. For example, in Pakistan, there are women caucus in the at the parliament, and we also work some time with them for nutrition advocacy, and especially to advocate for making food and nutrition security as a fundamental right in the Constitution of Pakistan. New members of new members of parliamentarians may be particularly open and receptive to becoming involved in nutrition related issues, because they wanted to make space and wanted to keep them highlighted. So new member of parliamentarians are often looking for an area of work where they can make a personal contribution for nutrition agenda or any social issues. Then there are parliamentary library research and documentation services. For example, in Pakistan, we have Pakistan Institute of Parliamentary Services, who provide information that member of parliamentarians required in their work as a legislator. So the services they provide are notes and background paper and other relevant information to member of parliamentarian. So it is useful to be in contact with the staff of those who provide this service and facilitate to make available to them relevant documentation on issues and legislation relevant to nutrition. Okay, so coming to how we have been engaging with parliamentarians and what are our approaches. So as I mentioned earlier, we have started to engage parliamentarians from past many years. You can say 6-7 years experience. So we started by sensitizing and sensitization and orientation session and capacity building through capacity building workshop, and we sensitize almost more than 700 member of parliamentarians from national and provincial assemblies. And in March 2018, 26 parliamentarians from different political parties came together and pledged to end hunger and malnutrition in Pakistan, and keeping beyond their political differences. Like in that group, there are parliamentarians from different political parties, and they recognize nutrition as a pressing issue which should be beyond the political differences. We sensitize parliamentarians on different issues, on malnutrition issues, its implication, and how they can play the parliamentarian can play the role to address the issue. Then also we talk about budget allocation, which is very important. So we make policy briefs and other briefing documents and sensitize them, like what are the benefits, or it is important how investing in nutrition will contribute to GDP, individual well-being and country prosperity. Then we, from past 2-3 years, we have been extensively working to recognize food and nutrition security as a fundamental right in the Constitution of Pakistan. Making amendment in Constitution is not an easy task, and we have been pursuing it from past many years and have made some progress as well. But we are still into it, and hopefully we will achieve our target. Then we also, as I already mentioned, we also technically support 2 members of parliamentarians to highlight malnutrition issues at different parliamentary and other relevant forums. For example, if they want to if they are going to participate in any meetings or international forums or national forums, so we also provide them facts and figures, and sometimes key nutrition related issues and other relevant information she needs or he needs. And of course, we also provide question to be asked from the parliamentarians. Political commitment. We have, as Mubarak Saab just said, we have been engaging political leaders during pre-election advocacy. So from last 2 general election in 2018 and 2014, we have done extensive lobbying with all mainstream political parties through multiple methods. Like we also done one-to-one meeting, send them letters. We also conducted seminars, small group meetings. And before that, we had done analysis of main political parties' manifesto to see how they what are the areas, or if there is any food and nutrition related commitment is there. So in 2013, we conducted an analysis of 7 political parties, and based on that, we made a position paper, recommendation paper. And after that, we conducted advocacy seminar and small group meetings, individual meetings, and also send lobby letter to manifestos committees and key leader of the political party with the recommendation. As a result, four major political parties recognize the importance and urgency of addressing malnutrition challenges in Pakistan. One of the main political party who added a dedicated chapter on food and nutrition, and the other party added specific commitments for focusing 1,000 days windows. Then after 2018 election, the party who made government not only included nutrition commitments in its manifesto, but publicly announced its commitment for the cause from the highest level. For example, after 2018 election, Prime Minister of Pakistan committed to tackle the problem of undernutrition in our children as a national priority. In his first speech, you can say after the victory speech, he highlighted the issue of stunting he just showed X-ray images of the brain development of a normal versus a stunted child. Then after 2018 election, there were many programs and projects that was focused on nutrition, and nutrition is still high in the agenda of government of Pakistan. And recently in March 2024, February 2024, we had a general election, and before that election as well, we reached out all major political parties, especially through pre-election advocacy seminar. We also sent them letters with a recommendation letter, and it is very like it's a good that they recognize this as a like priority and add it in their political manifestos. Then we also have done extensive advocacy efforts to implement nutrition-related laws, policies, and strategies. Especially, we have done pre-budget. We usually do, and from past many years, we have been doing pre-budget advocacy campaigns and federal and provincial levels for increased budgetary allocation. Then also after COVID-19, we also engage parliamentarians and SDG Task Force Secretariat to reprioritize nutrition in post-COVID-19 scenario. We also sent letter to Chief Minister for implementation of relevant laws, policies, and increase budgetary allocation. For example, we wrote a letter to Chief Minister and Chief Minister of all provinces, because we have breastfeeding laws in all 4 provinces and at the federal level as well. So that was a good strategy, because when there is something in the table of the high level official, so there's some you can say there was some response, and they started to focus on like what is the status of this law, why it is not implementing. So there's always a outcome of if we do something strategically. Then we also send letter to member of parliamentarians of all 4 provinces and federal level as well, because we have been pursuing this agenda for nutrition security as a fundamental right in the Constitution of Pakistan. This is already in the Constitution of Pakistan, but under the not as a fundamental right, but at the principle of policy. Principle of policy means if government have resources, they will secure this right. But if they don't, public cannot cannot ask legally for providing this right. Then we also develop many policy brief on different topics. For example, food and nutrition security as a fundamental right, investing in nutrition, multi-sectoral nutrition, and other relevant topics. And this policy brief have been used for meeting with different political leaders, or for advocacy seminars or one-to-one meetings. Collaboration engagement with SDG Parliamentary Task Force. So we have made very good working relationship with the Parliamentary SDG Task Force, which is based at the National Assembly of Pakistan. Our main agenda to sorry. So we have been engaging with Parliamentary SDG Task Force on to push the agenda of food and nutrition security as a fundamental right in the Constitution of Pakistan. And we have done various series of meeting with the convener of task force, and she was very supportive to To promote this agenda, we also have done various orientation session with the task force member and subgroup on SDG 2 under the SDG Parliamentary Task Force. There are various subgroups for SDG 2, 3, 4, like something like that. And we also develop a position paper and policy brief on food and nutrition security as a fundamental right. We also advocated to establish a parliamentary oversight mechanism for nutrition, and we actually we have made certain progress on this, but due to change in political leadership and because the parliamentary convener was the person who pushed this agenda, so she was changed and we could not go through it, but we are into it and we will pursue it when this new SDG task force convener will be in the office. Members of the task force agreed to introduce a motion to recognize, a motion at the from the floor of the parliament to recognize food and nutrition security, right? And through our advocacy, there was a inter-parliamentary union regional meeting hosted by parliamentary task force, and there was a special session on nutrition on that IP meeting. Parliamentary Nutrition Champion, we have made a group of 49 parliamentarians from national and provincial level and recognize them as a nutrition champion. These champions represent from all main political parties of the country, and they are committed to raise their voices in align with the SUN CSA objectives and goals. And out of these 49, 16 of these parliamentarians are member of SDG committee which is at the National Assembly of Pakistan. The main purpose for the formation of this nutrition champion is to generate public awareness and understanding of nutrition situation, as well as they can inspire broad, positive, committed action to address and improve the status of malnutrition to support the mandate and priorities of SUN movement in Pakistan. We also engage them on different advocacy activities, like we also engage them to, for example, if we organize any talk show, so member of parliamentarian can be one of the speaker in that. So they also promote nutrition agenda at different levels where they go. So what are our achievements out of all the approaches or activities, efforts we have done in previous years? So we have a parliamentary nutrition champion group across the party lines. Like in that group, there are parliamentarians from different political parties. We have, although there is not any substantial but we have sensitized member of parliamentarians for the need to integrate nutrition, right to food and nutrition as a fundamental right in the Constitution of Pakistan. Then parliamentary task force as SDG secretariat at National Assembly, they are very much supportive to support our agenda from the floor of the parliament. Then we also, SUN CSA also played instrumental role for the protection and promotion of breastfeeding laws, mandatory food fortification laws, and food safety laws, and increasing taxes on sugar sweetened beverages. Then advocacy for exemption of exemption of tax on fortification material. Recently, last year, government of Pakistan approved I am not remember the exact figure, but they approved multi-sectoral program for 36 high burden district, and SUN CSA also played role to advocate for approval of this PC1. SUN CSA also mobilize nutrition for growth commitments and also supported government of Pakistan to make some commitment at the nutrition for growth event. Then there is a National Nutrition Coordination Council as well. It's a high-level council which is chaired by the Prime Minister of Pakistan and which has a representation of all relevant federal and provincial ministries. So this is my last slide, and what lesson we learned from our all these advocacy efforts from past many years. So sustained engagement with all political leaders is very important, because it is not possible to achieve your target if we just engage parliamentarians for a certain period of time and then there is a break and then we again start engaging. So sustainable engagement is necessary to achieve advocacy efforts. Building personal relationship and trust with MPs. So it is always good to have a personal relationship and trust with MPs to promote our agenda. So, for example, we have a very good relation with our parliamentarians who also supported us to connect with different manifestos committees and to send and our recommendation paper with them. So it's important. This is just one example. It is also important that we, because different political parties have different interest, and so we need to tailor our advocacy message with those keeping in mind their political priorities and interests. It is also important that we provide relevant facts, possible solution for improved nutrition in the form of briefing paper or fact sheets. Building relationship with parliamentary forum staff is also important. Like I just shared our coordination with SDG task force, and we have very close coordination with the coordinator of the parliamentary task force. So if we need to have a meeting with the convener, we contact with the staff and they line up our meeting and we can get time with the parliamentarian. So then it is also we also achieve some progress and some achievement by collaborating with other like-minded civil society organization or alliances. Like I had shared as sugary sweetened beverages taxes on SSBs. So we collaborated, like GAHI is a platform, a global advocacy incubator who was working to increase tax on SSBs. So SUN Civil Society Alliance also collaborate with them. SUN CSA chairperson wrote a letter to finance ministry to request for this increased tax on SSVs. So it is always good to work with other forums to push the agenda of nutrition. Then it is also important that our approach should be flexible, adaptable, and persistent. This is essential when navigating with the complexities of parliamentary process. These are the glimpses of our recent pre-election advocacy seminar in December 2023. So they also made these are political leaders also made pledges to promote nutrition agenda. And here is some glimpses of our advocacy efforts and parliamentary engagements with different political parties. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bilkis, for a wonderful presentation on the advocacy work. And there's a lot to take away from that. But I also want to congratulate SUN CSA Pakistan for sensitizing 700 MPs and also creating that cross-party nutrition advocate champions. I think that's really impactful. I have a question, but I'm going to open up the floor to others first. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question or share a reflection on the presentation we've just heard? Maybe while others have a think about questions or reflections to share, I have a question about your experience in terms of when MPs are voted out or new MPs. How do you deal with continuity of your advocacy efforts when there is a turnover of the individuals that you're working with? For example, that core group of nutrition advocate MPs, if a few of them, what are your next steps to ensure continuity when those that you've engaged with and have supported your work are no longer in that position of power?
Yeah, I can add, and my other colleague also can add in. So I also talked about because Nazgul usually same parliamentarians also come in power through next election as well. So we also had personal contacts with them. So we can, when they elect once again in next assembly, so we also contact them and have a meeting with them. Secondly, we also engage SDG parliamentary task force to work with them, and usually it happens like most of the parliamentarians are in the forum of that task force. So we can like we had to not start from the scratch, but because they are already sensitized, so it's easy to engage them again. But of course we need to share a background and to share like we had a meeting or we have done this thing, and it is always like what we experience is they promote our agenda, and yeah, so these are the two things, like we have personal connection with them. We also engage them through SDG Task Force Secretariat and also from the other parliamentary forums. Anyone from my team?
Just to add, adding with Bilkis' point, actually we build institutional relationships, like Bilkis mentioned that we have MOU with the SDG, Parliamentary SDG Task Force Secretariat, and whoever is elected, we engage with them. And even our Parliamentary Nutrition Champions Group has membership from both the opposition as well as from rural parties. So we have a mix of, parliamentary champions in our group. And I remember Dr. Arif Alvi, when he was opposition leader, we were engaging with him regularly, and later on, when the party actually came into power, so he was elected as the president. So we were connecting with him during his opposition tenure, but later on he was, president of Pakistan, and he really supported the cause of nutrition. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or reflections from participants?
Yeah, just an additional point here, like we were working with the parliamentarians in pre-election period, and now we have decided that we will be having courtesy meeting with the parliamentarians who actually supported us in integration of nutrition in their political parties manifestos. And now we are going to actually write them appreciation letter, as well as we'll have a follow-up, and will offer our support, how we can actually support them in implementation of nutrition commitments they have made in their political manifestos. So this is constant engagement. Oh.
Thank you. I can see Sambatia's hand is up, if you'd like to take the floor.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Yes. This is Bernard from Uganda, representing Scaling Up Nutrition and Food Security for Youth, Adults and Children Network. Yes, we thank you for these efforts that you've really made to advocate for nutrition programming and food security at all levels, especially in policy change. My question would be, how have you, what steps have you taken forward to see that the youth are the center in advocating for policy change and in being involved at all levels of policy change, especially in access to nutritional services and integration of nutrition in the programming at all levels? Because you come to realize that some of them are on medication, HIV, positive living, and some young women and adolescents that are facing malnutrition, and especially some even you come to realize that they go off their medication, like ARVs, and come to realize that even some, when they are pregnant, they don't know what to eat. They don't know their pre and post antenatal services. How can we put the youth at the forefront when it comes to young women and young and adolescent young girls that always face challenges of early marriages and pregnancies? And also the young mothers that are really facing challenges in access to services. Thank you. I beg to submit, but I appreciate all the initiatives for such a great presentation.
Thank you. Frankly, youth engagement has been a weak area for us, and we have realized it. And now we are going to engage more members. We are in conversation with the youth-led organization, as well as previously there was a youth parliament in Pakistan, and the member of youth parliament were very much engaged in policy advocacy, but that platform was, that platform could not sustain. So we are mobilizing.
For more engagements, actually, we have also our emails in the chat. For youth engagements, we can really contact us and we also see how we can have the experience sharing.
Yeah, definitely we'll be happy to learn from you, because this is a new area for us. And right now, actually, government of Pakistan is also actually going to establish a youth network, and recently, Scaling Up Nutrition Youth Network. and recently they had the inception meeting. So we are planning to mobilize youth in Pakistan, and we have allocated 2 seats within governance structure of SUN CSA in Pakistan as well. So, and we are also actually working on to develop some sort of guidelines how this youth engagement can be more meaningful. So we are working on that, and we would be happy to learn from you as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button after 4 years of being virtual. I think we're coming to the end of the meeting. I firstly want to thank the speakers for their really insightful and informative presentations. There's a lot for us all to think about and consider how we can perhaps implement some of these learnings in our own work. I will be sharing the presentations with a link to the recording, as well as the email addresses of the speakers. So if you have any additional questions, or if you'd like to follow up and arrange a meeting to discuss any other additional points, you can do so directly. As mentioned before, this is our first cross-regional peer-to-peer learning event, and would really appreciate any feedback that you may have for us. You can always reach out to me directly via email. You should all have my email address. And if your alliance or your member organization would like to present in another similar meeting, please do contact me directly, and we can definitely organize that moving forward. So once again, thank you so much to the speakers. Thank you to the participants for making the time to be here and learn from the alliances, and hope to see you very soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and nice to
Thank you, Nazgo. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, Nazgo.